Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 11 of the AskTomTech show. We're back in 2018 and today I'm going to be talking about VPNs, virtual private networks. So over the last little while, I've had a few people actually asking about virtual private networks, so VPNs, and more so in relation to their personal home and internet sort of usage. And surprisingly, I've been actually seeing advertising on TV for virtual private networks and how they can protect your personal information. Now that's a really big sort of thing at the moment, is protection of personal information, and so it should be. Identity theft and fraud and all these sort of things happening in the world, and looking at ways that you can potentially protect that information. So that's where a virtual private network could come in handy. But you've really still got to know what it can do. Now, essentially what it allows you to do is from your computer, you make over the internet, you make a connection to a server provider, and then all the traffic that goes over that network is encrypted. Now that's the key element. Traditionally, if you're connected to the internet and you're browsing web pages, that traffic isn't encrypted, which means that it can actually be seen by anybody. If anyone's looking or trying to hack into that sort of system, or they're analyzing traffic on that network. When you're looking at the web as a standard application, you see the little padlock on your internet browser. That means the traffic between you and that website is encrypted. Now that's really important for websites where you're entering in personal information, and particularly passwords or credit card information. So you want to be making sure that regardless of what you're doing on the internet, that if you're entering that type of information in, look for that little padlock. Click on the little padlock in your browser. It's normally up on the left hand side near the actual web address you're on, and the good ones will be a little green, will go green, which means it's a verified certificate, and you want to be seeing that on the likes of the banks and anywhere you're entering credit card information. But regardless, that little padlock that you see means that the data that you're viewing is encrypted. Now that's the important piece of all this sort of stuff in keeping that information safe. So potentially any site that you're entering in details to, like a form, then if that website doesn't have a security certificate, what's known as an SSL certificate, then that data is not encrypted, and anyone could actually see the process of that form being submitted if they were actively looking at the link or the traffic running across there. So at a technical level, you can use things like packet inspection tools, which would actually be able to see every bit of traffic that's going between your computer across the internet to a website. And the unencrypted components of that are completely viewable in clear text. So think about it, if you're entering that password in and anyone can see it, it's not real safe. So where does a virtual private network come in? So a virtual private network, as I mentioned earlier, is essentially a connection between you and whoever the provider is, and it's securing that traffic. And then the idea is that the traffic on the other side is then secured. So traditionally in that personal space, a virtual private network's being used to mask where you're accessing the internet from. Now, every device that's connected to the internet effectively has an address, and that address is generally located, is tracked to a location in a country and a state. So if you're at home browsing the internet and you go to a website, it'll actually know that you're coming from Australia, and in most cases it'll then know you're coming from whatever state you're in, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. What a VPN does is it's connecting to a remote server, so then the traffic that the websites that you're going to then are seeing the site coming from that remote location. Now that's been used traditionally for things like bypassing Netflix as an example, and it's geolocator. So when you log on to Netflix from your home, Netflix knows that you're coming from Australia based on your IP address. Having your internet connection going over a VPN link will show Netflix that you might be coming from the US, because they can determine, because the VPN allows you to change what that looks like. Now, that's been cool from that sort of getting around some of those locations, but how does it actually secure your information? Well, basically what it does is it masks the information, so it hides where you're coming from. Now, ISPs are mandated to be tracking metadata. So they're tracking this is a government mandate, they're tracking high-level information about the types of information, the types of websites that are being visited, where they're being visited from. And the idea behind that is so government agencies are able to track criminal activity. Now, using a VPN, that traffic is then masked, so it's never captured by the ISP in that instance. It's going out through a VPN provider. The idea being that that VPN provider is securing your information regardless, and they're not going to allow anyone to access that. Now, whether or not this happens, I don't know. I'm yet to be tested in seeing it, but the VPN itself is a way to get around that and ensure that the traffic that you're browsing is secure from your PC to wherever it's going. But what it doesn't do, it doesn't mean that you can then go to any website and happily enter in your credit card information and personal information. You still need to be very wary about where you're entering that data in. You still need to be going to secure websites. As a general rule, is it going to offer you any more security around what you're doing? Probably not. It'll allow you to be anonymous in what you're doing to an extent. But the reality is I don't think a day-to-day user browsing the internet is going to offer you any more security. You still need to do those common things about protecting your passwords and looking at what sites you're going on to. From a corporate perspective, where we actually see, and in business, where we actually see a lot of VPN use, that's mainly used, again, from a security perspective. And that's about making sure that only the systems and data that you want to be made available to users out on the road is via a VPN. So that VPN then essentially extends the company's network from within its four walls out to those mobile devices. So a laptop user, for example, will have a company laptop. Now he might want to access a company application or company files that are stored on the file server or an application server in head office. Now that server and application won't be made accessible to the internet. It won't be a web page in this scenario. So how does the user access that? Well, they use a VPN, virtual private network. So they connect to the internet from their laptop, wherever that might be. Then they launch a secondary connection mechanism, which creates that private tunnel and that connection into the corporate network. And now that laptop is now part of the corporate network again. So it's just like they're sitting inside at their desk. Might be a little bit slower depending on internet speeds, but they're there and connected and can access all the same resources. Now, from a security perspective, that's really good from the business point of view, because we don't have to then open up these applications to the global internet. We're able to control access to those and control access to the network more thoroughly. Yes, there's overhead in maintaining the infrastructure and the VPN connections, but overall it's a much higher security position to be in. Now that user can then browse the internet and do all that, and that internet browsing is then protected by all the corporate systems that might be in place. So there might be firewalls and traffic filters and content monitors in place. So when the user's connected to the VPN and they're browsing the internet, they're under exactly the same controls and conditions that they would be as if they were sitting in the office. Now that's a good thing, because there's additional layers of protection that are happening, virus scanning, blocking out dodgy websites. So that laptop is less likely to be compromised when they're running. Now, is that, again, from a business perspective, great, highly secure, makes access to the applications. From a user perspective, look, it's an extra step in the process for them to get connected, but again, that allows the business to control and know who's accessing their data where. As we're moving towards more cloud-based applications and systems such as Office 365 and the like, the VPNs become less required to access that data, which then introduces a whole nother range of challenges around how do we protect and manage who's accessing that. VPNs can still play a really, really important part in that process. So still we're seeing, and it's still a good practice in some elements to secure those corporate laptops. We're saying, well, we're not going to let you access the corporate information unless you're connected to the VPN, so we know what other traffic's running across that link. So VPNs, are they needed to do what you need to do and to secure your data? From a personal perspective, no, I don't feel they're going to offer you any more value in securing what you're doing on the internet. They will certainly make you more anonymous, so there's less chance of tracking. You can redirect where you're connecting to, so it doesn't look like you're connecting from your local ISP in that state, which can be good and give you other advantages. But overall, it's not really going to offer you any more protection, because you're still going to, at the other end of that VPN service, those websites are still unencrypted. So it's really hiding what you're connecting to. That's the best way I can describe it. The tunnel between you and the VPN server, wherever that might be, yes, that is definitely all secure and all protected. So if someone was snooping on your router or inside your network, and they were looking to see what you're doing, yeah, okay, definitely that traffic would be a lot more secure. But once you hit the other side, if someone's attacking the other end, there's still a chance that could still be seen. From a corporate perspective, definitely more secure, and definitely a more secure way of accessing remote data and applications. So if you've got data in your office and you want it to be made accessible to users, then a VPN is a reasonably good way to make that happen, if there's no other means of moving that to the cloud securely and things like that. And we see that a lot. It just means that the files on that device becomes accessible to the user, making them more mobile, making them more active, and more efficient in that space. And definitely it makes your data in your business more secure, because we're controlling how that is being remotely accessed. So that's VPNs in a nutshell, and I really hope you've got something out of it. If there's anything else you want answered, please hit me up, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever. Shoot me a note and we'll get it on to the next episode. Thanks.